this was the most important one. Not only to see my sister, but to know that God is listening and to know that there's a creator of a higher vibration that loves us more than anything. And we still talk about this up until this day. Me and my older sister, about the girl from heaven, our sister, buried in Staten Island, New York. I get asked all the time, Philip, if you were in heaven, which I call home, did you see God? No. You see, the light is the vibration is the love, and the love is God. God is everything.
My guest today is Phil Siracusa. Phil is a radio host for Horsefly Chronicles. Phil had a near-death experience in 1991 that led him to live the life that he is living now, and he is here to share it with us today. Thank you so much, Phil, for joining me. I appreciate your time so very much.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It's my pleasure.
Absolutely. The pleasure is all mine. And I have been anxious myself to hear about your experiences and this home that you live in as well. So if you don't mind starting out maybe with your near-death experience and going from there.
Sure. People, all of us, we're born, we die, and the biggest question arises, where do we go? Do we go to nothingness, or do we go on to another existence and another dimension of us? So my job as a 56-year-old man now is I teach the world, as just one of the players, that this isn't the end game. In 1981, I was 14 years old. I lived in Staten Island, New York. It was a beautiful summer day. My mom had taken me to the dentist. It was a routine visit, and I don't like the dentist. I'm not sure who does, especially as a young teenager. So I remember it was my mom in the room, the assistant, and the dentist. And I guess he found a cavity or something, and he's poking away, and I'm pulling his arm away. So he tells the assistant to put nitrous oxide on, the mask on, which we used to call sweet air, laughing gas back in the day. And they put it on, and I'm still feeling the pain. And I pull his arm away, and then he says to the assistant, turn it up. So they turn up the nitrous oxide, and I feel myself levitating out of my body. I float to the ceiling, I turn around, and I'm looking at my mom and the dentist, and I'm like, hello, hello, can you see me? I'm looking at my body, and they're working on my teeth. And I don't know if it's a dream state, if it's a hallucination, whatever's going on here. I go through the ceiling up into the sky, and everything is getting smaller. The dentist office and homes and buildings, and I'm going way up into the sky. And I'm pulled into a tunnel. And this tunnel is very dark, very big, and very, very long. And I was being sucked in like a vacuum cleaner hose really fast. And it was windy. And again, this is not my physical body, this is my spiritual body. And I feel this vibration, but I'm not worried at all. It's as if I'm aware, but I don't see anything because it's total darkness. And there's no time in that tunnel. Time on that side does not exist. And I seen this crack hole, this crack of light far, far away. And then I started to hear melodies. And I was slowing down in the tunnel, and then the melodies became very soothing, and then opens up from darkness this beautiful, magnificent sky that's euphoric. And I felt embraced in love. It was warm, it was peaceful, and it was harmony. I'm drifting right now, and I'm being pulled through a garden on the right side of me, and the garden is second to none. Every flower and rose, and everything in that garden was perfection. And I'm levitating over everything, but I've embraced in it because I can feel, first I can feel second to none, the pureness of energy of me being loved by a creator. And then I'm being pulled through a field, and the field was very, very long with hills, and each blade of grass was perfect. So when we talk about perfection, it's nothing that we have here in the physical realm. It doesn't even fathom what's on the other side. It's just beyond incredible. And of course, it sounds like a dream state, or I want this to look like this. And this angelic being came slower and closer to me from a far distance, and she was pulling me through a form of a gravitational pull, like a magnetic pull. And she took me to a scenery of a park, and I see these two elderly people sitting on a park bench. And she goes away, but I knew this young angelic being from somewhere. I just didn't know from where. And I didn't want her to leave because I felt comfort with her as well. On the park bench, these two elderly people stand up and turn around, and it's my grandparents. It's my grandmother who died earlier that year, who was buried in her blue dress. And it was my grandfather with a top hat on and a gray suit, who I never met because he was deceased before I was born. But I knew him too. And I like, Grandpa, and he goes, hello, Sonny. And I felt so happy to finally meet him. And he looks at my grandmother, and she looks at him, looks at me, and he goes, what's Philip doing here? And she looks at me and points a finger and says, go back. You're not supposed to be here. And I says, Grandma, and I'm being pulled backwards as if it was a command. I can't be there, but I wanted to be there. When you're on that side, you don't want to leave. I'm being pulled backwards through the field, through the garden, back into this tunnel, and I'm going backwards. It's very dark, very long, very windy. And, you know, there's a part of a near-death experience that people may say, well, what part may be a scary part when you come back to the physical realm? Being nothingness and nowhere because you feel like you never be found or seen. You're part of an existence of a tunnel that doesn't exist to go anywhere. It just is. It's as if you're part of that standstill of nothingness. But the vibrations pull you. Those vibrations are centered around the aura and the chakras around the spiritual body before it goes back into the physical body. And I stopped, subconsciously, I stopped myself in the tunnel. I was aware, and I didn't want to go back to the physical world. Now I knew what was going on. And somehow I'm pulling myself back, which I call home, we call heaven. And I'm pulling myself back through thoughts. And I see the sky once again open up at the end of this tunnel. And then one more time, I'm pulled backwards over a hospital, looking at my body being worked on. And you don't want to go back in. It's like, you know what's going on. You don't want to deal with pain or anything. It's when you're coming from a pure existence of pure love, and you're going back into the physical reality of that weight on you, it's like, I don't want to. But when the other side says you're going back, you're going back. Your mission's not complete. And I slip right back into my body as if you put a glove on your hand. And I remember gasping for air, and I'm gasping for air. And the first person I see is my mom. And well, what happened was I was born allergic to almost everything. And what they didn't know, I was allergic to nitrous oxide, which shut me down. I guess it was some form of an allergic reaction that stopped me from breathing. I was saved, but I wanted to go back to heaven. And I remember, Mom, I was in heaven. I seen Grandma, I seen Grandpa, and it back in this is 1981, so this was taken as a dream or some form of a hallucination through medication. So I was home a couple of days later, and I tried talking to my parents, but it went nowhere. And I remember I had a lot of friends back in the day, and I was talking to my friends and saying, I was in heaven. I was in heaven. I know I was in heaven. People laugh, right? It's, oh, you thought you were in heaven. And I guess part of me started to have doubt too, that maybe I really wasn't. It was a year later, when people ask me, are prayers answered? The answer is yes. I'm 15 years old. I'm in the backyard of my parents' home, and I'm looking up at the sky. And I say, God, if I was really at your home, give me a sign, because no one ever believed me. And I'm not sure if I believe me. And I'm talking telepathically as I'm looking at a rose bush with these beautiful flowers. So my mom says to me and my brothers and my sisters, hey, we're gonna go for a walk. It was a nice day out. My father was working in Manhattan. So I go into the front yard, and we're all starting to walk down the street. We live on a really long street. And about half a block up, I feel this vibration to the right of me. Now, in front of me is my mom, my three older brothers, my sister Patricia's to the far right of me, and in between is this vibration. I turn, and it's the girl from heaven, this angelic being. She had blonde hair, crystal blue eyes, and I was like, you're here? You can see me? That's exactly what I said. And she goes, of course I can see you, silly. She had blue jeans on. She had a shirt with flowers. These were the same flowers I seen in the garden in heaven. Mom, look, that's her. This is the girl. This is the girl from heaven. Philip, I don't see anybody. And my brothers turn around and say, knock it off. But my older sister, Patricia, says, I see her. And she's talking to her. And she's skipping with her and laughing. Well, the joy that I found in myself, knowing that's the girl. And now my sister sees her. I see her, and she's with us. And I feel like $1 million, incredible. And my mom, my brothers are looking at me and my sister, thinking that we're just joking around. And this girl was so filled with life. It was an abundance of tremendous energy that she was bringing into the physical realm, and we were acknowledging it. We keep walking, and I'm happy as can be. And all of a sudden, she disappears. And me and my older sister are looking for her, but we can't find her. And we look at each other, but we know she was there. Well, before I was born 1967. Before I was born, my mom had a daughter, and she went back to the home in Staten Island, that same home, but she died at 2 weeks old. And her name was Linda. And that was her. This was the sister that I've never got to meet.
Does she stay with your family? Does she watch over you still to this day? Do you know?
Most definitely. And I'm going to get to that point too. Yes. Prayers are answered in the most mysterious ways. And some prayers are not answered. And there's a reason for that. Asking me, well, have you seen her again since that time? Well, my sister, at least once a year, gets a visitation from her. And I remember there were three main points of my life that I was down. really down in a deep, dark place. And I just went to sleep. And in the dream, she came through, this girl. And she brought me alive in the dream, where as if I woke up the next morning, feel like my soul was rejuvenated and I felt good and ready to live again. Letting me know it's okay that you're going through this. I'm here for you. It's with the intent that we have and the belief and the trust and the love and faith that the other side can hear and acknowledge us. There are many miracles that I felt would be answered for me, but this was the most important one. Not only to see my sister, but to know that God is listening and to know that there's a creator of a higher vibration that loves us more than anything. And we still talk about this up until this day. Me and my older sister, about the girl from heaven, our sister, buried in Staten Island, New York. I get asked all the time, Philip, if you were in heaven, which I call home, did you see God? No. You see, the light is the vibration is the love, and the love is God. God is everything that is alive. And when you go on that side, you're embraced in it. So it's not a male or a female, it's everything on that side. Because when I was talking about the blades of grass, people say, oh, well, you seen blades of grass and they were all cut really nice. No, 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 no. They were alive. You can feel the existence of creation and energy through everything on that side, as if it were connected to you, your soul, as if you are one. And there is no better feeling, if you lived 1,000,000 years on earth, that you would even replace a figment of imagination towards the fields of heaven, which I always talk about, because they're the one thing that I'll think about once a day. The fields, perfection beyond belief, and the feeling of harmony. You know, we use the word love here in the physical realm, like boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, I love you. And you do, right? But people ask me, what's the comparison of love on that side, the word that we would use here in the physical? We use it as a feeling of how we feel sometimes at the present time, and sometimes we really, truly, genuinely love somebody. The difference is when you're on the other side, it's never ending. And just picture that for a second. Picture your best day when you love someone so much, you can feel it, you get the goosebumps. Now picture that that never leaves you. It just always exists with you. It's incredible. Heaven is real. God is real. I get asked, did you meet angels? Some of us, I believe, become that higher vibration on the other side, are called guardian angels, where we can come back and forth to the physical realm, like my sister, to give us messages of hope, faith, and move on in your darkest times. I'm here for you.
Do you think she has been with you from your birth or with your family since she's died?
That is $1,000,000 question. And here's what I remember. Before we're born into the physical realm, we sign soul contracts. And it's kind of like, this is what I remember. And it's interesting because I thought like this was way out there until I started asking people, have you ever heard of something like this? Signing a soul contract, knowing the life you want to live, like kind of like the pre-planning of things the parents you want, the family you want. They go, yes. It's kind of like, picture this in your mind. It's like you're on the other side and you're like with a group of people and they're your soul family. And you choose to come back for different experiences in the physical realm. And I remember saying, okay, I'll go. I remember that. I'll go. And I just remember waking up in a hospital in 1967, opened up my eyes, and I was born. It's fascinating and how this works. And the soul contract thing is real. And today, look, people say, well, why do innocent children die? And why are there wars? And why so many crimes and murders? Well, I'm for one, not God, but I can tell you that the soul contract makes sense to me. It kind of falls into play like, okay, we've already done this. Maybe it was a form of another reincarnation that we've had. And we're redoing it in a different way, in a different vibration, because we want to experience different things. And it's kind of like, okay, this is how I want to live, and this is when I want to exit that physical world. It's like a play, but it's so serious, and it is. It's scary to think about death on this side, right? In the flesh, when you really think about it, it's like, oh no, I'm either going to be put 6 feet on the ground or I'm going to be cremated. I don't want. You're going. You're born naked and afraid, and you come into this world alone, and you will die naked and afraid alone. You're going alone. No one's holding your hand, going, okay, let's go together now. It doesn't work like that. But what does work is soul families. It's kind of like you ever see somebody in the physical world, like, I know you, but I don't know you from where, and I know I never met you. You have, because they're part of your soul group.
Mm.
So it's kind of like that play that we've designed, that short play, and we want to live that short play. And have you ever been somewhere where you felt like, I know I've been here before, deja vu? Well, chances are that you have been there. And we try to put science behind everything, right? We try to like use the skeptical minds of, well, if this molecule and this atom don't fit together and nothing work, doesn't work like that. We are the creator. We are the energy, and we are the existence of us. When we go home, we go to the higher energy source where we've come from. People ask me all the time, well, do we have a beginning? Was there a beginning? In my spiritual belief, no, 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 there was never a beginning because you always were. And people ask people, was I always this particular name person? No. You go through different channels of energy that your soul wants to experience on different planes of physical realities. And it's not just here on a planet, on a rock. It's different existences of dimensions of time.
Yeah, and I want to get back to where you were talking about the suffering. You know, why are there wars? Why do bad things happen? My opinion is that if bad things didn't happen, we would have no motivation to try to be better, to want better for not only ourselves, but our families, our children, our parents, our loved ones, our friends, our neighbors, our towns, our cities, our states, and on and on and on. We want to continuously try to see a better world around us. And if it was already fantastic, what would be the goal? We couldn't get to a better place. We wouldn't know what suffering was to compare it to what we imagined was good. What are your thoughts on that?
I agree. It's sort of, I know that it's hard to fathom, and none of us want to lose our child or a friend or a parent, especially in a tragic way, right? Because it breaks part of us. But remember, I said about that play that we've written out. Remember, I said about we are the creator. Well, everything is a learning curve of existence. And we go through these steps and we see how these things play out. When you listen to near-death experiences of people, even children that have died, and 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 they come back into an awakening, they say, "Well, I really didn't want to come back like myself. This was that time." You know, you can ask me how long was I crossed over for? It could be months. There's no time on that side. We measure time here. But the truth is, time does not even exist. Time is something that is linear. We've made that up as well. We're the creator. The creator makes up everything.
So we've just had a little technical difficulty. And I'll tell you, during these interviews with people who have crossed over or had other amazing spiritual experiences, I've never seen so many technical difficulties. And I work as a professional on the computer doing many, many Zooms and Google Meets and things like that. And I've never seen so many issues. And people have even told me that even like they'll walk under a street light and it'll go out or something like that. It's amazing to me how people like you, like people who have been beyond or have had experiences, can affect Wi-Fi, electricity, things like that. Have you experienced that before?
Most definitely.
Yeah. Okay, good. So it's not just me that's noticing it. Good.
We are the creator. We are the existence of energy. And when you had asked me, about people dying and acts of wars, and in a spiritual sense, when I say we're the creator. And what that really means is that nothing exists. You've made it exist through your form of consciousness. Um, Nothing is solid. No material thing is solid. You've made it that way through a form of consciousness. Therefore, you've created everything. We are all forms of collective consciousness. Picture that the body is a least vehicle. It goes back, right? It's going to go back eventually, whether you're 100 years old or 20 years old, it's going back. It's a least vehicle. But the energy inside, that soul particle of you, which is the God particle, leaves and goes back home.
Did you have a sense of oneness when you were over there?
Oh, yes.
Can you explain that to me? Because for me, because I've never experienced the oneness, it's hard for me to imagine.
One with everything, connected to everything, seeing a 360 view of everything simultaneously as you're feeling and embrace the empathic love and beauty that I might add. That's the furthest stretch of imagination possible that we could even fathom here in the physical realm is oneness. My simpleton words, the words that we have, don't even come close to what that sun really is. It really doesn't. I can give you the outskirts of what it is, but it doesn't even. There's colors that are on that side they don't even exist here. We can't even describe them. They're just so beautiful. And telepathic communication on that side is a communication. How we through our consciousness, how we communicate with all the loved ones. And people ask me, one of the biggest questions, well, how old were your grandparents? They were as old as they wanted me to see them so I would recognize them. That's how old they are. And they look, everyone around there in that park scenery and in heaven had this glow around them, this glow of energy around the spiritual body. So picture no wrinkles, full of energy and life and love and harmony with the glow around them. There's no pain, there's no sickness, there's no disease, there's no negative thoughts or anything. It's all this positive beauty of everything. That's the oneness on the other side. It sounds too good to be true. And the words that we use in any language and culture on this planet doesn't even come close to what that side really is. We just try to give you what we perceive it as,
Mhm.
but it's beyond those words.
Yeah, the experiences tend to be ineffable. They're just indescribable. Like you said, how do you describe a color to someone? That's not something that can be described in words. It's similar. You are the owner of the Horsefly Chronicles infamous home. Is that correct?
Yes, the infamous haunted home in Easton, Pennsylvania. After my near-death experience. After that visitation from my sister, what happens is some of us are a lighthouse. And a lighthouse is someone that the other spirits, hey, we know we can communicate with this person. And you go through life. I remember being 16, 17 years old, and I'm saying things that no one else is saying, and these shadows and things to that nature. And it's part of some of us are selected to be like the messenger to teach other people about our existence and how we go on. So my life has been filled with a lot of interesting things, may I say the least. People ask me, look, do ghosts exist? Yes. You know, are there upper vibrations? Of course, because I described heaven. Are there lower vibrations and lower entities? Yes. Do I relate them to any kind of biblical or testimonial through any kind of forms of religion? And I'm not really too keen on that. I'm more a person who, well, first, if I don't see, I don't believe. And if you don't test the waters and have the experience, then how could you prove to anybody that even exists? Meaning that apparitions and ghosts and loved ones can come through and try to communicate with you. And, you know, the home that we live in, my wife and my family, it's not an old home. It's not one of those houses you see in a movie where we were just buying a house in an estate neighborhood, a beautiful home, and it turned out that way. But it turned out that way because it's part of my life journey, my soul contract. And well, here's what's interesting about this house is that before we got the house, I found it on the internet, right? And I called the real estate, and they said, "Oh, we're sorry, it's under contract with another family." So me and my wife had found another home in Pennsylvania owned by a priest. Really nice looking home. And, you know, we were tossing it around, but still looking. And we just didn't find anything that really was gravitating to like this house. And then a month later, I work in New Jersey, and my wife goes, "Guess what? That house that was on the contract is back on the internet." I says, "Go see, let me know what you think." Well, here we are 14 years later in the infamous haunted Horsefly Chronicles home. Now, the first 6 months living here were really nice, right? Big home, family's happy, everyone's happy. But you know, we hear about those bumps in the night and those little spooky things that come out. Is it a figment of an imagination or is it real? It's real. And I started to think, first of all, was it the lights flickering just my eyes? Maybe the bulbs were going dead. Maybe it's an electrical problem in the home, or maybe it is what it is. I remember I worked for Cablevision at the time, up 5 in the morning. It's a Saturday morning in 2013. And I'm in the kitchen. I see this black circle, this, we call it orb, and it's floating back and forth really fast. And I'm trying to keep up with it, and I can't with my eyes. And that was the start of it, of the acknowledgement saying, we're here too. And that's how the story started. And there's a book written on the home. The home has also been on television. Um, it's a noted home, and we do teach people in a good way. Look, all hauntings are not evil. Some hauntings are visitations. It's kind of like that walkway, like that tunnel that people are going through, and they want to communicate sometimes.
Do you feel you were just attracted to a haunted house, being the person that you are with the experiences you've had?
So Easton and Forks Township in Pennsylvania was separated by, it's the Delaware, right on the Delaware River. The Iroquois Indians, way back in the day, they lost the treaty in a battle, and there was a lot of bloodshed in Easton. And some of the apparitions that we see are false face masks that the Indians would use to scare off their rivals. Through documenting and having people actually study the land around here and the farms, they realized that there was a lot of bloodshed from the Iroquois Indians. A lot of them died young. And it's the land that's tainted. So this could be an apartment building if they took the house down, and people would ask me, will the apartment building be haunted? Yes. It's already the land, it's tainted in the land. The Indians were very, very powerful people, very spiritual people, and they stood their ground, meaning that they can curse the land too if they wanted to.
Do you think you were attracted to that because you're familiar or you've been to the other side?
I was attracted to the home and not knowing why. And I do remember at one point fighting with the real estate agent saying, you know what? Because there was a whole bunch of things go back and forth with trying to get the mortgage on this house and the real estate, and then the person was selling it, their real estate. I was like, I don't want the house. I don't want it. And my wife kept fighting for it. No, we have to get it. We have to get it. I'm like, we can just find another house in Pennsylvania. It's all right. But she fought for it, and here we are. But it's okay. It's okay because this house, and my knowledge, and me bringing people to my home, right, has shown the world in various ways that there are supernatural things that do happen that are unexplainable. We cannot explain everything. I've welcomed atheists to my home, the people of all science to my home. And I like to hear different perspectives, right? I can say that some parts of the world are like the pyramids, and there's different hauntings in different locations. The land is tainted in some areas where those ancestors, their vibration, their residual energy is still there. That doesn't go away. This is a demonic haunting the home. This is not a friendly Casper the Gap. This is not that. I've learned, and my family has learned through time and testimony, to set boundaries as best as we can. People ask me today, does the devil exist? Dark forces do exist beyond anything we can comprehend. People ask me, have I had priests to my home to try to remove the entities? Yes. And it's funny because when the priests are here at this home, blessing it and going through the rooms, nothing happens. Absolutely nothing. 3 hours later, the shadows come casting through the walls in the home. And it's as if the other side are in these interdimensional beings that play hide and seek and trickery. One of the last teams to be here were the people who are part of the Amityville haunting that NESPR was here, the Annabelle doll. They were here a few years ago. Now they're notable because they took over the Warrens' work. Ed and Lorraine Warren, who were one of the first people to investigate the Conjuring home, Amityville, the Annabelle doll, and Robert the doll, and things to that, right? So when they came here, I really wanted to hear their perspective. Well, I remember that we're in the living room finishing up. They were finishing up their prayers, and all of a sudden, every light bulb went really bright in the living room and in the kitchen, the dining room, all at once. We almost had to like close your eyes. It was so bright, and then it went away. And interestingly enough, we felt that it was gone. It left. It didn't like what they were doing, the prayers, and it was gone. Um, I remember that week I went to Hobby Lobby and I'm buying the crucifix, and these crosses and statues of Mother Mary and Jesus. And I'm like, where we won the battle? We won it for 6 months. But 6 months later, remember I said there's no time? On that side, the shadows came casting back only to say, hey, we were just playing hide and seek again. Just a little bit long on your watch. But the good side is that we teach the world that these things do exist. And what we also know is this: I'm a paranormal investigator. I'm also a person who has this awareness of abilities. With that, back about a year ago, I started with a group, and came up with the Horsefly Chronicles World of Psychics, a psychic network of people of all faiths and religions to help other people maybe give communication and validation through loved ones on the other side. We all have a gift. Each and every one of us has a gift. It's how we utilize it. But in today's society, we're polluted by distractions, and boy, there's so much going on in the world. You don't even know if you're waking up tomorrow, if you're going to get hit with a nuclear bomb from another country. It's just like unfathomable what's going on here. But if you center yourself and you find that oneness within you and that alignment, and you're grounded, and you turn off the cell phone, turn off the computer, have all distractions away, and just focus on you and who you are, you could find that little piece of harmony within yourself that you will go back to. And that's important, to be grounded, especially in today's world. Don't be pushed into society and what they want you to be. Society says, well, if you don't have an email address, you don't make it. If you don't have a cell phone, you don't make it. If you don't have a computer, you don't make it. It's forced us to be part of that. But here's what my studies have learned. You can go on YouTube and you can type in families that live off the grid. As of the last 5 years, it's become a thing where more and more families saying, bye corporate America, bye New York City, bye Vegas, we're done. We're done. And they're starting communities off the grid. They're not depending on electricity. They're not depending on a car. And yet someone will go and record them on a video and they're so happy. They're so happy with the kids. And that's who we were, right? That's who we were. And we lost it along the way because society pushes it out. But yet they're so happy. So if you could find that little piece in you, do it. Especially in today's day and age, the world that we're actually living through, right? Because the happiness goes back to, like, put Little House on the Prairie on, right? It's funny. You go back to that day, and there's simple things where, like, the little arguments and things that happen, they always figured out a way. The simple things are the most pleasurable things. One thing about my near-death experience, I want to tell everybody: you could be a billionaire, you could be a millionaire, but you ain't taking a U-Haul truck down to the grave with your stuff. You are born with nothing, and you are leaving with nothing, no matter who you are, what you are, of any existence on this physical planet. But what you do take with you, and what I did experience, is that you take that love that you've done for other people, you take that with you. That's part of your soul. So I say, do things for mankind. You don't have to give money. Do something nice for somebody. Go out of your way. Don't be the other negative pusher towards another person's existence. Be the person who says, you know what? Maybe you're going through a hard time. Let's have a conversation. I can promise you this. When you're on your deathbed, and someone's going to ask you, well, if there's one thing you could have done through any age of your life, you would say, I wish I had more time. And no amount of money is going to buy time. You can't buy time, right? You can't add another 10 years to your life for $100 million. It doesn't work that way. So if you can't buy time, appreciate every second that you have on this realm.
That is a beautiful sentiment. Is that the most important message that you brought back with you from the other side?
Most definitely. You can't buy time. So enjoy it and help your fellow man along the way. And I promise you, when you're on your last breaths, no matter how you should fall, you're going to take that feeling of love with you.
I love that. It is just lovely. And before we say goodbye, you have a radio show that you are a host of. Can you tell me a little bit about that and how my viewers can find it?
So I'm a host on Horsefly Chronicles Radio, which is on Roku and FM, based out of New Orleans. And the show is geared towards interviewing celebrities and people of all forms of religion around the world. And we do this to teach people that there's different perceptions and perspectives on what we think and believe and achieve. But I will tell you that, well, I've interviewed the rich of the rich, the poor of the poor, the middle class, the priest, the shaman, the Wiccan, the worshipers. The spiritual belief is within everybody, and everyone has that same rule. Like, well, we know we're not alone. We know we go on beyond the existence, and we are encountering different things that we cannot explain. And it's knowledge, right? It's knowledge going forward because none of us are experts. I'm not no expert. We learn every day, right? That's what we do. But when we learn, we teach. And when we teach, we help. And when we help, that moves forward into a wave, like an ocean to the next wave. And you help more people going forward by a chain of reaction. That's what the show is geared towards. Horsefly Chronicles Radio. It's on Monday nights, 8 o'clock Easton. Just type it in. It's on United Public Radio Network. And we have some interesting guests, all walks of life. And I ask the hardest questions to bring out the best results to help people. Will I see my brother, sister, cousin, relative who's died? You will. But let's hear from somebody else. Do ghosts exist? Do entities exist? And one of the biggest questions in today's world is, are we alone? And I think those who are awakened know that no, we are not alone. We've never been alone, and we're not the first person on this rock in the middle of a galaxy, in the middle of nowhere. If you really zoom out of the earth, we're just a little pebble, a little grain of sand in the middle of nothingness. So enjoy it, because it's a short play. The near-death experience, here's the way I picture the time here. You're in your car, and you stop at a red light, and you're like waiting for that red light to turn green. It's over. It's over. That's how quick it is. And on the other side, it feels like eternity. So enjoy it, embrace it, and do the best for people moving forward. You can't get away with nothing. It's best to be the best of you, being the best of you, be the best of me. Because when you do that, that karmic view of you pushes out and brings the law of attraction of more positive things coming to you. The devil will test you. I get tested all the time. I'm going to throw curveballs at you and bad relationships, and let's see how you get through all this. Positive thought, mind, body, and spirit, and the faith within you and what you believe, no matter what form of religion, where you come from, and culture. Think it positive, think it forward, and think of the light, and push through it and say, there are no boundaries and there's no mountain I can't climb.
Never give up and always give your best and enjoy every minute. I love it. Such wise and sound life advice.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. And on that note, is there any reason to fear death?
Not at all. It's a short play. No. And to the listener out there, be more in tune with loved ones that have crossed over. Because a lot of us, I know there's people that feel, I'll never see this person again. It's over. I'll never meet them again. It's not true. My experience at 14 years old, seeing my grandfather, who I've never met because the man was deceased before I was born, is more of a reality of life than this is life. People ask me, what's more real? The physical realm that you live in now, or when you cross over? When you cross over is alive. This is like that dream. This is the dream state, sort of like that dream. And I wrote this play out, and I'll live it in. When my soul contract says it's time up, it's time up, because I've chosen to go back home. It's scary physically when you think about it, but leave that physical part of you and think about the spiritual part of you, saying, wait a second, there's more to this. And there is.
That's great news. Thank you so much, Phil, for joining me and sharing your wisdom and your amazing story stories. You have a lot of amazing stories. Um, just really, it's a personal favor to me that you share your near death experience that helps the world in so many ways. Not only people that are facing death, people that have lost their loved ones, people that have had spiritual experiences or even near death experiences and they don't know what's happened. If people didn't share their stories like you, we would be way back in the Stone Ages. It's because of your stories that um, that we can move forward and we can start to awaken as an entire planet. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you. It was my pleasure being on your show, and I hope that my message is out. Never give up.
Thank you for being here. I just want to tell you how much I appreciate you being here and supporting my channel. If you haven't already subscribed, please consider subscribing if you enjoy near-death experiences and other spiritually transformative stories. It helps the algorithm know that this information is useful and push it out to more people. And that's the goal, to get as many people to know that we are eternal spiritual beings and that we never die. Our bodies might die, but our essence will never die. And I want people to live with less fear. Let's all spread the word. Like, comment, subscribe, share, hit that little notification bell so you get all the notifications when my videos post. Thank you for all of your support. I'm sending love to you.